Hey everybody, this is Pastor Tripp at Reeves Chapel Baptist Church. This is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, and this is our Wednesday evening service. I've been thinking over the past few days over scripture to share with you tonight, and the one that comes to mind comes from Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, where Jacob is telling his brothers, he tells them, what you meant for me for harm, God intended to do good. And I don't think there's any other passage or story of a person's life in the Bible where we learn to be patient with what life gives us. And if you remember, Joseph, he was the favorite son of Jacob, who was known as Israel. And he was one of 12 sons, and he was his father's favorite son. And that irritated the other 11, and they hated him so much they actually plotted to kill him. But when the time came that they were going to kill him, they saw a merchant caravan traveling by, and so they sold him into slavery and declared that he was dead. Well, Joseph was taken to Egypt, where a man named Potiphar, the captain of the guard, actually bought him as a slave. And Joseph, all of his duties, he did well in them, and Potiphar saw that he was doing so well, so he put him over his entire household. Well, Potiphar had a very nice looking wife, and she was attracted to Jacob because he was to Joseph because he was a handsome young man. And when she made these advances on Joseph, he shunned her. He rejected them. And then finally, she made another advance on him, and he rejected her again. And when he ran away, he left his cloak, and she declared to her husband, "Your slave came to me and tried to attack me." And it incensed Potiphar, and he threw Joseph in jail. Well, while in jail, Joseph met a cupbearer and a baker who had also been thrown in jail, and in that very same jail. And several years later, both of them had a dream on the same night, and Joseph interpreted their dreams. One of them was to prosper, the other one would die, and 3 days later that came true. The cupbearer and the baker were released from jail. The captain of the guard raised them both up, but at the same time, he honored the cupbearer by restoring him to his position, but he had the baker executed. It was only then, after a period of 2 years, that this cupbearer remembered Joseph when the Pharaoh had a dream and couldn't interpret it. None of his magicians, none of his interpreters could interpret this dream. And he told Pharaoh about this, and Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and Joseph correctly interpreted his dream, predicting the 7-year time of abundance in the country, and then 7 years of famine, and how to prepare for that. And Pharaoh was so thrilled with what Joseph had done, he elevated him to the second most powerful person in Egypt. A Hebrew was the second most powerful person in Egypt. Now, Joseph, through the trials and the tribulations that had been thrown at him in life, he didn't want these to happen to him. He didn't really have a choice in these things happening to him. He was eventually reunited with his family when they came searching for food. And then at the end, he had his whole family moved to Egypt, where they lived good lives thereafter. Now, as I said, Joseph didn't want all of this thrown upon him. He didn't, go out and say, "Hey, I want to be sold into slavery. I want to be thrown into jail." But it happened. And I use this passage tonight because, well, in our time right now with this coronavirus, None of us wanted a pandemic to be thrust upon us. It's happened. But the good news is, now that it's seeming to flatten the curve, and things are getting better, we're starting to reopen the state. And this coming Sunday on May 31st, we here at Reeves Chapel will be open for service, in-house service, for the first time in over 2 months. However, the way that we used to do church, the protocols that we used to do church by, no longer exist, at least not during phase 2 and phase 3. So temporarily, we're going to have to make some changes in our lives, just like Joseph did. But we need to do exactly what Joseph did and take whatever situation, whatever rules and regulations and guidelines we need to follow. And we need to take those and abide by those and make the best of the situation. In other words, we need to become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And so I will tell you that when, we're asking everybody that plans to attend on Sunday to please monitor your own temperature and your own health at home. If you have a temperature of over 100.4 or 100.4 or over, please stay home. If you've been around somebody that's had the coronavirus, or if you've been exposed to the coronavirus, or if you are having any of the symptoms, we're asking you to please stay home. Be patient. You'll get better. You'll be able to come back to church. But right now, we don't want to get other people sick by coming to church. The third thing is we're asking is for those that are in the high risk category, those that are age 65 and over, those with underlying health conditions such as heart conditions, lung conditions, or other autoimmune conditions, to please consider strongly whether you need to expose yourself to the open environment yet. Now, when you get here, there's going to be some changes as well. We'll have signs up directing you which entrances to use. We will not be using the entrance to the office building or the side door in the sanctuary for enter and exit. That door will only be allowed to be used to go to the restrooms. The other doors will be locked. They will be blocked off because of the regulations that we have to follow in order to have church. But that's the thing. We want to have church. We want to gather together and be able to prosper and worship and fellowship. And so we need to follow these rules. Well, also, when you arrive, there'll be hand sanitation stations at the front and the rear of the sanctuary. We ask you to use those. We recommend strongly that you wear a mask. If you don't have a mask, we have a limited number available to pass out. So we can give you a mask to wear if you desire one. Also, our ushers will be taking you to your seat. We will not be sitting in our same old family pews or the pew we've always sat in. We have to abide by the safe distancing recommendations given by the state, the CDC, and the Baptist State Convention. So therefore, we'll be using every other pew. We will be seating you from the front to the rear as you come in, and then at the end of the service, we'll be dismissing you from the rear to the front. And during this time, while you're standing in line, we ask you to please maintain social distancing, that separation of 6 feet. Now, families that live under the same roof, they'll be able to sit together. Other individuals, they'll have to be 6 feet apart on the pews. So be patient with us. That's what I'm saying. Joseph, he was patient through everything that was thrown at him, yet he made the most about it. There's going to be some things different in our church. We're not using bulletins. We're not using our hymnals. We're not using the pew Bibles. And by the way, if you have your own Bible at home, please bring it so that you'll have it to reference during the message. And the only reason we're doing that is for safety for you. These are safety regulations that we're having to follow. And after church, when you congregate, we're asking you not to congregate directly in front of the sanctuary doors at the rear under the crepe myrtle trees where the 2 sidewalks meet. We're asking you to spread out from that area so people can walk through freely. But we do ask you to continue with our tradition of fellowshipping. That's one of the wonderful things about Reeves Chapel is people stay in fellowship. Just maintain social distancing while you do. So you're welcome to do that. one of the big things that I've been asked, what about restrooms and water fountains? Well, first of all, water fountains, our water fountains here will be shut off. They will be covered. They will be clearly marked that they are out of order. And this is due to the CDC regulation. The restrooms will be open. There will be signage inside both restrooms here in the office building, which you'll be able to get to through the side door in the sanctuary, telling you the procedures you need to do before you leave the restroom in order to sanitize it for the next person coming along. Since our water fountains will be off, we're telling you or asking you if you feel like you need something, you're going to need something to drink during the service. That's perfectly fine. Bring your own bottle of water, bring your own drink. It can be in a bottle that's resealable or a cup that has a lid on it with a straw. As long as it's not able to fall over and spill like a can or an open cup, you're welcome to bring that to church and use that. So what I'm saying is we're going through a lot of changes. We're having to put up with a lot of regulations we've never had to put up with before. And these new protocols, the thing about them, they're not permanent. At least we hope they're not. We know they're going to probably be in place for phase 2 and phase 3 of the reopening process. But once we get past that, maybe, just maybe, we can get back to the way church used to be. I'm not making any promises on that because we still might have some regulations we need to follow. But again, we need to go back and look at Joseph's example. He made good out of every bad situation or situation that he didn't like in life. And that's what we need to do here. You know, the devil threw this coronavirus on us and he meant it for harm. But God is going to take it. He's going to use it for good, just like our verse for today says. So when you come, I ask you to be patient. I ask you to be considerate. I ask you to follow the new protocols that we're having to follow in order to have worship. Because worship, we found out in these past 2 months, is a privilege. It's an honor to be able to come to church, spend time with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and worship God in His house. So remember, just be patient, be considerate, be thoughtful in your actions when you come this Sunday. And whatever the devil has meant to harm us with, God has meant for our good. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I look so forward to seeing you on Sunday. I ask you between now and then, anybody you come in contact, let them see Jesus in you. Love God. Love people. That's what the Bible tells us. Until then, take care and God bless.